Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So in this video I wanted to film this really fun look of doing makeup on someone else. I really hope you guys enjoy this video and learn some of my tips and tricks on how to slay this super fun and purple look. And also please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to be starting by prepping her face with the Ula Henriksen Oil Control Toner. And I typically do this with all my clients just because I like to get rid of any oil, any dirt, any debris, basically any impurities that may be left on the skin which can interfere with the foundation application. So lately I've really been into doing brows with powder. I just feel that it's much softer, and because this look is going to be a bit bold, I don't want to do too much to the brows. I just kind of like want to fill them out. But luckily she has really full brows and they're very arched, which is so amazing, and it's just going to make my job like so much easier. So now I'm just going to be going in with a little bit of the Born This Way concealer, and this is in the shade Warm Beige, and I'm just putting a little bit of product like right in the center on the arch of her brow. And I love this brush. This brush, I actually got it like in a set. It was like those like made in China brushes, but you know what? It's such a bomb brush and it does the job like so well. I know, sis, you're gonna have to find something to do because you're gonna be looking fire. Like, do you have any plans or?
I don't know. Let's see. I'm gonna have to hit up my friends.
It's a hot girl summer, so you need to go find something.
Tomorrow at 9 a.m. you will see me lit.
Oh my god!
So and it's on a boat this time.
Really? So what time do you wake up, like when you go to those types of events? So like what time does one wake up when you have to be at the 9 a.m. banquet?
Like at 7 or a little bit earlier because you try to pregame.
Wait, you pregame before 9 a.m.?
Yes, so my friends are like this.
So this is how you live your life?
Yep.
Gotcha.
Some fun, but it's on a boat, so I'm excited.
On a boat?
Yes.
Oh, so there's levels to this. Because I've heard of it before, but never on a boat.
This is the first time they're doing it on a boat.
Wow.
Yeah.
So with whatever's left over on the brush, I'm just going over the top of the brows, just to clean them up and make sure they're nice and sharp. See, if I was younger, I would be with all that, but like now that I'm older, I'm like, I don't belong in these kinds of places.
I feel you. Now that I graduated college and I'm actually working full time, it's difficult, especially on Fridays. Going out after a long work week.
So now I'm just applying a little bit of the KKW concealer on her eyes and using a Sephora number 71 brush. I'm just using that to blend it on the eye and use it as a base. So now I'm grabbing a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Powder in the shade number 2. And this brush is from e.l.f. I like it because it's like really flat, but it's also very dense. I feel that it picks up the perfect amount of product. And because this powder is for the face, I also feel that it kind of like smooths out the eyes. So I like to use it for the face and to set the eyeshadow. So I'm going in with the James Charles palette, and I'm using the light pink shade just to use as like a very, very, very light transition. And this color, like you won't even barely be able to see it, but I really want the blend on this look to be very diffused. So now I'm grabbing the purple shade from the James Charles palette, and this brush is a 217 from MAC, and I'm just placing that color directly on the crease and blending that really lightly until it's really nice and blown out. And this is where you kind of take your time just to make sure the colors blend seamlessly into one another, where there are no lines of demarcation.
Summer flew by.
I know.
I barely did anything.
Girl, I feel like every summer I'm always like, yes, this is gonna be my hot girl summer. Before hot girl summer was like a thing.
Yeah.
And like I do lazy girl summer.
Watch TV, Netflix.
There's like, girl, I've watched like so many documentaries. It's like pointless stuff, but like I don't know. I just like I'm obsessed with information. Like I've been so fascinated by this one man. His name is Nick Yaris, and he went through like the craziest thing. And I know you were into law.
Yes.
But his story, literally, I feel like it changed my life. It definitely did. I swear on everything I love. Like
I literally want to meet this man. I want to find him. I want to raise money, help him. Because what he went through was like so insanely traumatic. So basically, he was a junkie and he stole a car. And during that process, he got stopped by a cop. And, you know, him being a junkie, he became very paranoid. The cop told him to get out the car and they had like a scuffle and the gun went off. The cop didn't die, nothing happened, but he got arrested. The cop over exaggerated the story and made it seem as if, you know, he had done way worse than what had actually happened. So, because this guy was like a junkie, he had heard about a story of a woman that was killed, that was kidnapped, and he felt that if he pinned it on his friend, who was also a drug addict, but that he thought was dead, that he would be able to get out of it. And when they found out his friend would never died, he got sentenced to death for a crime that he never committed, and he did over 20 years in prison and he was treated in unimaginable ways. Like if you watch this, it's so heartbreaking. And in the midst of all of that, he became fascinated with books and bettering his education. And he read over 9,000 books while he was in jail. And he learned how to speak and be a good man. And he eventually met a woman that was trying to help inmates. They had a liking to one another. They fell in love. They got married when he was in prison. And long story short, he found out about like DNA testing. He had it tested, and so many things happened. Like the evidence got lost, it got spilled, just so many things. And he was able to prove his innocence 15 years after he initially started because of the courts were giving him such a hard time. And can you believe after they proved his innocence, finally, years, so they put him in solitary again with knowing that he was innocent because they felt that he had gone through so much that if they put him in the general population of prison, that he was gonna like hurt the other people.
That is ridiculous.
Which makes no sense. Like you clearly, this man didn't do anything. Hasn't he been through enough? He was stabbed. He had his head like bashed. He was beaten by correction officers. He went through so much. And his message, despite everything that he went through, was that he was gonna come out of jail and be a good man, and that he was gonna be a man of good. Wow. And that's what he's doing now. Like it's incredible. You should watch it on Netflix. It's called Fear of 13.
Yeah, I got a little bit carried away with my story, but now I'm proceeding to add a little bit of the darker purple from the James Charles palette and blending that in the outer corner. So now I'm going in with this liquid liner from CoverGirl and just running that very gently along her lash line to my desired preference. Just taking my time to making sure it comes out really nice and straight and smooth.
I'm using a Neutrogena makeup wipe and I kind of like wrap it around my index finger just because it gives me so much more precision. And I'm now cleaning underneath her eyes where I may have had a little bit of extra fallout. Look up, look, and just being very gentle. And this is where my nails are actually helpful. I'll use my nail to kind of like really carve out this sharp edge. So for lashes, I'm using this lash from La Flare in the style SD47. So before I apply a lash, I like to have the client look down and measure the lash. And based on the length of the lash, I will trim it on the outer corner. So I usually have the client look down because if you just have them close their eyes while you're applying a lash, their eyes will actually get stuck. So now I'm grabbing a little bit of moisturizer, and this is Nourishing Moisture Cream from Beauty RX, and I'm just using a synthetic brush to apply that all over her skin. So now I'm just grabbing a foundation brush and I'm just applying that all over her skin. This just allows me to apply much better without applying an excess of product. So I just use this to kind of like spread it, and then using the Beauty Blender, I'll go in and really push it onto the skin. So now that I applied that all over her skin, I'm just grabbing the Beauty Blender and just like pushing that into the skin even further. That way it gives more like a diffused finish. And I may go in with a little bit of extra foundation and apply it to the areas that need a little bit of extra coverage. So for concealer, I'm using the Born This Way concealer in the shade Sand. And I like to use a concealer that's closer to the skin tone of the client. That way it can really hide any discoloration. So it's basically doing this instead of using like a color corrector. Skin is the most important thing in makeup.
Yeah.
Because I feel when your skin looks smooth, when it looks like you have no pores, when your skin looks like perfected, you just look so youthful, and it just makes you look like a Photoshop.
Yeah, that's why I always come back to you.
Thank
Because
you.
you know how to do that. Literally.
Thanks, girl. So I'm applying a bit of concealer in areas where she may have a slight darkness, because the area around the mouth tends to be darker for some reason. So now I'm going in with a little bit of the KKW concealer, and I'm just basically applying that where she may have a little bit of hollowness. Now I'm going in with my contour shade and grabbing this brush. I'm just like dabbing directly onto the product, not so much painting it onto the skin, and just very lightly applying that to the cheeks as well as the perimeter of the forehead and the nose. Basically all the areas that you would typically contour. So now I'm going in with the Beauty Blender and blending that concealer. And I like to apply the contour first and let the concealer kind of set before I move on to the rest of the face. I feel that doing this, like I mentioned in a previous video, allows for the concealer to have like a maximum color payoff. So as you can see under her eyes, it looks really nice and bright in comparison to the other side. And when I'm blending that, I'm not bringing it too low. Just exactly like where I want to add the brightness to. And with whatever is remaining, I may go underneath the cheek to just like further sculpt it, so that way it looks more defined. Just making sure I don't have too much product, just very gently going from the start of her brows and a little bit underneath the nose just to lift it slightly. Alright, so now I'm just grabbing a little bit of my Ben Nye powder, and this is in the shade Cameo, and I try not to grab too much product, kind of dust off in the back of my hand the excess, and I'll have the client look up. You see, look up in it. And sometimes with the butt of the sponge, if there are any creases, I'll just like make sure those are smoothed out. So now I'm just going to be powdering her face with the Sephora Micro Smooth Powder, and this is in the shade Tan. Basically going over all the areas that haven't been highlighted. And now grabbing my contour brush, I'm grabbing Hoola Bronzer from Benefit and just applying that in the areas that you would contour, which is like the hollows of the cheeks and the perimeter of the face. Look at you, girl. Look at your skin.
This is all useless.
Wow. Wow. Do you ever watch Flavor Flav?
Yes,
He's
I
like,
remember.
wow.
Wow, 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 wow!
Throwback.
I know. What happened to him? Flavor Flav.
Oh man.
Carve out the cheekbone slightly. So I just got this blush. This is from Benefit and it's called California, and it's a little peachy, but I love peachy blushes. It's my favorite, and I just felt that instead of adding pink, I feel like peach and purples look really nice together. Are you into blush?
Not really.
No?
No.
I don't know what it is about blush. Like, I could keep going. I love blush.
Yeah.
I just think blush just is something so like innocent and like virginal about blush. Yes, it just does it for me. So now I'm grabbing this highlighter from Wet n Wild, and this is in the shade Golden Flower Crown. Okay, heard you. So now I'm gonna be dusting off the bake. So a little trick that I like to do after is apply a little bit of the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless powder. Love this e.l.f. brush. Even though it's a highlighting brush, I use it specifically to apply this powder. I just feel that it just makes the under eyes look so nice and bright. And sometimes if someone has like creasy under eyes, I'll take like a dense brush and I'll kind of like really push the powder in, just so that the powder fills in those little lines and there's no under eye creasing. Wow, this is natural for her. She's serving natural glam.
You feel me? Because every time I come, it's like, May, I want this.
Yes. And it's like a double cut crease with a wing liner with a rainbow shadow fading into black.
I lie to myself and I say, it's not that much. And then May
Yeah.
looks at me like,
Like, no, girl, what? I'm not ready for this. I don't know if
but she is, because
if
she's
I'm
talented.
capable. Thank you. So now I'm just gonna be smudging a little bit of that purple shadow underneath the eyes.
Oh no, sis, I already have like so many ideas.
Oh my god, I'm scared.
No, you shouldn't be. Because you execute every time.
I know, but it's not the execution, it's the process to the execution that had me shook. I'm like,
I'm letting you know so you can mentally prepare.
wow, heard you again. She wasn't ready. So now I'm using this palette from Violet Voss, and I'm grabbing this purple right over here and applying that right at the base of her lash line. So now grabbing the Huda Beauty Gemstone Obsessions palette and the second shade from the top, I'm using a pencil brush. And I'm just like applying that in her inner corner for a little extra sparkle. And I love a good inner corner. So now I'm using the Power Play Mascara from MAC on her bottom lashes. So for lip liner, I'm using Cork from MAC. And I have another liner, so it's fine. The bitch came prepared. Now that that's done, I'm using a little bit of the new Kylie lipstick from the C collection in the shade Beach Bum. So now I'm just grabbing a little bit of Ice Latte from Kylie and just adding that at the outermost edge of the lips just to give it a little bit more definition. And now I'm grabbing You Are the Sun Gloss. Actually, this is one of her high glosses. Never used it before. So now I'm just going to be setting her face with the Morphe Mist.
So that pretty much concludes this video. Thank you once again so much for watching. I really hope you stuck through the entire thing and learned a thing or two on how to get a super beat slate face. I made sure to share so many tips and tricks on how I do makeup. Once again, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I'll see you guys on my next video.